Hello, welcome to Chess Comedy Books 43. I thought we'd take a quick look at, before we were looking at random magazines, so I thought I'd look at random booklets. I snatched some out of the bookcase, one of the many bookcases. In fact, this is a bulletin, but they made it into a little book, which I think is better, actually. I prefer that rather than just a staple up here. It's properly stapled. It's done by the chess player to whom we owe so much, and it's over 50 years old. And inside, Terry Gilliam. Let me get that muddled up. Tony Gilliam shows us shows all the games. The British Championship won by Bob Wade. He got 8 points, and second was Boswell, Eales, Fuller, Keane, Penrose, and one and only Bill Hartston. He then goes on to list all his other publications. So he's got 112 publications which he's offering for sale at any one time. That really is magnificent, isn't it, if we think about it? Completely self-perpetuating, completely self-motivated, completely brilliant. I've never played through any of these games. I assume they are in BritBase, and if they're not, I'll happily part with this, however temporarily, for John Saunders. Here's something I got. These games are fairly freely available. The nice thing about them is, even though they're all Russian masters, they aren't necessarily household names. And it's the team event. Well, there's a game here by Spassky. A game here by Pologaevsky. But also people I've never heard of. So, quite frankly, that's what it was like. 1967. It's a bit pale, isn't it, really? Yeah, they're sending me something. A list of publications, once again. This is number 59. So there we are, held in the USSR. Now we're getting down to some more serious meat. This is one of the many little booklets, not so little booklets, produced by Ken Smith in the United States. Ken Smith was a great enthusiast. He was also a very great gambler. He would play poker, and he would play poker, not just far into the night, but far into the bishop, pawn, knight, rook. It's almost impossible to play through this book because it hasn't got any diagrams. Oh, there's one. I think I showed this before, while I'm showing it again now. As you can see, it's entirely typed out in descriptive notation, English descriptive notation. I don't think these books are worth keeping, really, except for just for historic amusement. Here's something that's even less worth keeping. Santasiere had rather a roasting. He had a very sort of flowery literary style, or thought he did. This is 2F4 against the Sicilian, which is popular, isn't it? And became very popular in England. With players like Dave Rumens. Basically, playing through this, you almost come to the conclusion that there are no good lines at all. You know, it's all very crude. I mean, look, But on the other hand, if you did absorb this, it is simplified by an international player of international standard, and it does give some games. Here's an example of that. There you are. It's nice and clear. A strong player could, after all, play through this in his head anyway. Today, novelty, any new idea, if worthy, is almost a desperate necessity when each chess star has not only a second, but a whole quartet. In Russia, a symphony orchestra, and each book theme lies exhausted on a bed of analysis. As you can see, he certainly enjoyed himself writing all this stuff. The great French poet Baudelaire gives us a hint at one of the characteristics of life and beauty, which is very applicable to chess play. Irregularity, that is to say, the unexpected surprise, astonishment, is an essential part, indeed the characteristic of beauty. Well, I take a breath. Is that appropriate in a chess book? I think perhaps it is. Here's a picture of the author who was never quite attained the rank of Grandmaster, but he was a tough player. He was born in 1904, so he was born a bit too long ago to be benefit from the Fisher boom and so forth. Now here's something else from the same company. This is the sort of thing Mike Basman would like. He possibly knows it, possibly even reprints it, I don't know. Take that back, I don't think he does. But anyway, the Max Lange, which is a line: pawn to king 4, pawn to king 4, knight to king bishop 3, knight to queen bishop 3, bishop to bishop 4, knight to bishop 3, and then pawn to queen 4. Not a move I would play. And then pawn takes pawn, and then blow me down 5 castles. So having given up a pawn, you don't push any more pawns in the center. You castle and wait for black to do his worst. I'm not convinced this is very good. The book is dedicated to George Koltanowski. Well, this has got a bit of, certainly got some meat on the bone. But black, of course, gains at the cost of a pawn. Black seems to have rather more than his share of the center. He goes fairly deeply. And there's something, discussions at what to do at move 11 there. Well, that's not messing about, is it? Move 11. This was probably published in about 1970. I'm guessing wildly. 1972. And he pays tribute to Estrin, whose book on the Two Knights was brought out by B.H. Wood and subsequently Batsford's. Here's a book by the one and only, still going, of course, Tim Harding. This book has never really been equaled. Tim shows a great sense of fun here, spelling out words like cabbage, where you move the C pawn, the A pawn, then the B pawn twice, and you can spell words, an A and then a G, and then the E pawn. There you are. I did it. There you are. He touches on openings like D3, and then knight D2, which I know you're just dying to know what to do against. Tim tells you. Tim tells you. G4, H5. There we are, look. Except, of course, from that era, it's in English descriptive notation. Shaking in your shoes today, Mike Basman, you're 75. Well, 75 this. I've got Tim Harding here. Here we are in Claude F. Bloodgood country. The most interesting thing about Claude Bloodgood was that he didn't get the electric chair. Whether he walked away a free man, I'm not sure. And I know that he's passed away now. Macabre discussion. One Night C3. I played that a few times. There we are, look. And Tim gives you chapter and verse. If you see this little book, if you see it, get it. It was published in 1974. Well, all these years later, I still like it. And I like Tim's books too. Now, here's something completely different. It's part of a series. I've got quite a few of these, but they're down in the cellar, so I couldn't easily access them. Chess in the USA is a collection of games. They're all Sicilians, nothing wrong with that, by Colin Leach, who was, I think he was a Middlesex county player, but very strong player. He starts off with giving games by Robert Byrne, Larry Evans, Arthur Biscar, Pal Benko. These people are no longer with us after all. The text is fairly small, which, as I keep on saying, is not to my liking, but maybe it's just me, but I can actually understand this a lot better than some of the new in chess ones, which really make me head spin this way around, or maybe even that way around. These are booklets I bought from Chess and Bridge for an absolute song. I think I paid about £1 each for them or something. And it's got loads and loads of games in it. I know that that doesn't really testify to whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. It's got 275 games, 275 games. And they are annotated using contemporary sources. I assume that Colin Leach did some work himself. I can only repeat, he is a very strong player. And I know how conscientious he is. There we are. I think this was published by Mike Sheehan. I think that was part of his, you may know Mike from Caissa Books. And no, it's not Caissa Books with Dale Brandreth. Same deity, different country. The last one for now anyway, has been the rounds. It's Birds Opening by Andrew Soltis. This from time to time is a system which people play because they know it and they can make a pattern with their pawns. But I'm not convinced it's worth too much. Larsen has played this, of course he has, but if you're Larsen, then you're one of the best players of the 20th century. In case you're not, then I wouldn't recommend this at all. It's too loosening on the king side. But there's various plots, as Basman calls them, with the bishop on e2, where it can go to b5 and take on c6 and double the pawn. Or it can even go to d3, which is very 19th century style. Goes in and a fair bit of depth. 15 moves. Here we have the stone wall. The pawns on e4. Sorry, f4, e3, and d4. In other words, you sort of set up a little barrier, don't you, in the center, and your minor pieces flit about. There's also a section, I didn't know this was here actually, I must look at this, on the from gambit. There we are with g5. Masker's move, I think. Yeah, that's pretty good, isn't it? Very useful. So there we are. This has been Chess Comedy Books 43. Hope you've enjoyed, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.